test. Some of you go-getters will take it more than once before the test. But, all right. So, we're on question 21 of 40. So, I did record the first half of the review. Here's the second half of the review, so both of them will be out there. You have a right triangle. You have a right triangle where alpha is 15 degrees and C is 24. Well, C is the hypotenuse. Okay? So we need to know angle beta. Well, beta is obviously this angle. How many degrees would beta be? 75. Because 75 plus 15 makes 90, and another 90 makes 180. To find side A is opposite of there. So you go sine of 15 equals the opposite side A over 24. And then let's go like this, and then go VTI there. And then I have my calculadora. Boom. All right. So if the sine of 15 equals A over 24, you multiply by 24. So 24 times the sine of 15. And we'll see if we're in degree mode. I bet I'm in radian mode. Yeah, I'm in radian mode. So if I do the same thing, I get 6.21. So 6.2 for this one. This one is adjacent, so it's cosine of 15 equals A over 24, or B over 24. So to find B, you take 24 times the cosine of 15. And you get 23.2. We good with those? Okay. Reference angle to find the exact value of the sine of 4 pi over 3. Well, your unit circle will help you with that. The sine of 4 pi over 3 should be negative square root of 3 over 2. Are you good with that? Okay. Cosine of 240. Okay. Cosine of 240 is here, but we want the cosine of negative 240, so you go back this way, and you're actually at 120, which is negative 1/2 for cosine. Okay, then we got to chapter 2. Number 24 is chapter 2, and this is why we didn't do it on the computer. That you had to use paper and pencil, because these questions are just nasty bad. Okay, nope, we're doing it on the final because you learned how to do it. So, now, remember, y equals a sine of b times x minus c plus d. Okay? Yep. You're supposed to know that. A stands for the what? It starts with an A. Amplitude. What's the amplitude on this problem? 1. The phase shift is C. C is a phase shift. So what's the phase shift on this? It's negative pi over 6. It's left pi over 6, so it would be officially negative pi over 6. So the sine curve, the normal sine curve, starts at 0, 0 and goes like this. So if you're going left pi over 6, what's pi divided by 6 in normal numbers? What's 3.14159265 divided by 6? About a half. Thank you. About a half. So you got to shift a half to the left. If you go about a half to the left, it is graph A. Okay? All right. The second one. The y equals cosine of 2x plus 3. Okay? So, y equals a cosine of b times x minus c plus d. Okay? What's your amplitude? 1. Okay? The period is what? Well, the period is 2 pi divided by b. Well, what's b? No. What's b? 2. So if you take 2 pi divided by 2, your period is pi. Your period is pi. Phase shift. Do you shift left or right at all? No. So your phase shift is 0. What does this plus 3 do to it? Makes everything go up 3. Normally your range is -1 to 1. But if you go up by 3, you go from 2 to 4. Add 3 to each of those numbers. So you should be in between 2 and 4. So it's either C or A. Your period is pi long. Well, they both look like they're about pi long. And then there's no phase shift. Well, cosine starts where? On the normal graph, cosine starts at 0, 1, right? And it goes down and then up and then down. So it starts at the top. Which one starts at the top, right in the middle? That's choice A. Okay? The range was from 2 to 4. So we only have 2 questions from that chapter because I don't like the computer questions of those, but I do have to ask you a little bit about that in the final. All right. Then we get solving the triangle. Ooh, this is law of sines, law of cosines. So which one is problem number 26 when we have opposites? Law of sines. So we need to figure out the missing angle. 66 and 74, well, that adds up to 140. So what's left for y? 40. And then do you do law of sines? So the sine of your angle, 74 degrees, over its opposite side, 14.1, equals the sine of 66 over its opposite side, b. So you take 14.1 times the sine of 66 divided by the sine of 74. 14.1 times the sine of 66 divided, sine of 66, press equals, divided by the sine of 74, press equals. And you get 13.4. To find C, the sine of 40 over C equals the sine of 74 over 14.1. Don't use this one because it's a rounded answer. You want to use the numbers that they gave you at the start of the problem. So 14.1 times the sine of 40 divided by the sine of 74. So 9.4 to the nearest tenth. Okay, law of sines, easy peasy lemon squeezy. When you have side, 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 it's a law of cosines. All the formulas are on the board over by Tim Kessler on the top. Okay, so if you need an angle, do you do the top 3 or the bottom 3? Bottom 3. So if you want to find angle A, it's the inverse cosine of, it'd be A squared, so 20.6 squared plus 12, or minus 12.9 squared minus 10.2 squared divided by 2a, or 2bc. Yeah, it matters between AB and BC and whichever the numbers you use, but if you go C then B or B then C, it doesn't matter. What? Yeah, -2. So you go second cosine, add an extra parenthesis, 20.6 squared minus 12.9 squared minus 10.2 squared divided by -2 times 12.9 times 10.2 parenthesis, boom. And you get 125.8. And then I would do the exact same thing for B. You can just go up to here and switch the numbers for A and B around. So where there was a B, make that the A, 20.9. And where there's an A, make that a B. Oh, I put the wrong number in. 12.9 and 20.6. And you get 30.5. And then that's 156. So you have 23.7 left. Okay. All right. If you have side angle side, it is law of cosines again. But if you're finding a side, then b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine of beta. So it's 9 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 9 times 7 times cosine of 99.4. And then that's too big of a number, so you have to take the square root of your answer. And it's 12.2711. Then you can just use law of sines to figure out y. So the sine of y over the opposite side c, 7, equals the sine of 99.4 over would be 12.2711. There we go. So 7 times the sine of 99.4 divided by 12.2711. And then go inverse sine of the answer. And it's 34.25 or 34.3. No, 34.2. So if you take 180 minus 99.4 minus 34.2 equals 46.4. Okay, Heron's formula. Heron's formula is S equals A plus B plus C all divided by 2. 14 and 10 is 24, and 18 is 42 divided by 2 is 21. So the area is the square root of 21 times 21 minus 14, which is 7, times 21 minus 10, which is 11, times 21 minus 18 is 3. So it is the square root of 21 times 7 times 11 times 3. 69.6. Okay, Heron's formula. When you have side angle side to find the area is 1/2 AB sine of the angle in between. So it's 35.9. Okay? So, notice how in the Law of Sines, Law of Cosines chapter, those 5 problems, that there's not one where you have 1, 2, or 0 triangles or things like that. Macy, put your phone away. Oh, you're not on your phone. Jeez. You were like this, as like, that girl's on her phone. I know you're not. All right, 31, vectors. Vector A is at 2, 1, or 1, 2, sorry. 1, 2. Vector B is at 3, 1. If you add the two vectors, what's A plus B? 4, 3. What's A minus B? 1 minus 3 is negative 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. So A plus B should end at 4, 3, which is this one. A minus B should end at negative 2, 1, which is this one. Magnitude of the vector is the square root of the first part squared plus the second part squared, which is square root of 9 plus 4, which is square root of 13. That's that answer. To find the angle, it's the inverse tangent of the absolute value of y over x. So if you go the inverse tangent of 2/3 and just make it positive, inverse tangent, Mr. Bierschbach, you get 33.7 degrees. That's your reference angle. Now, if you're in quadrant 3, what do you do with that 33.7? Nope. Add it to 180 because you go from your horizontal. And since you're in quadrant 3, you go down. So you add it to 33.7. So it's 213.7. And of course, I have to have my most favoritist problem of all time on there, the donkey problem. Okay? You make a parallelogram out of this. If this is 75, what's this over here? 75. If this is 25, what's the angle up here? 155. So if that's 155 and you draw the vector of the force that they're pulling with, and the donkey is going back at an equal and opposite force this way, it's just simply the law of cosines. So it's 50 squared plus 75 squared minus 2 times 50 times 75 cosine of 155. So 50 squared plus 75 squared minus 2 times 50 times 75 cosine of 155 equals, and that's way too big of a number, so you know, oh, I got to take the square root of that answer, and it's 122.15. So 122.2 pounds. What's happening here is because they're going at an angle, if they were lined up straight, they'd use exactly 120 pounds of force. But since they're going at an angle, okay, they have to use a little more force to move the donkey. Let's make sure that's right. 122.2. Okay, then the last chapter of stuff. And this is why we again had to use a book, because this is just ugly. What's secant over tangent? Well, secant is 1 over cosine. Tangent is sine over cosine. Come on, Mr. Hawks. And then you multiply to get rid of the denominator, which is cosine. So my numerator is 1, my denominator is sine. What's 1 over sine the same as? Cosecant. Cotangent times sine. What's cotangent? Cosine over sine. Sine is sine over 1. The sines cancel, so then I end up with cosine. Multiply. What's sine times sine? Sine squared. Outers is plus sine x cosecant x. Inners is minus sine x cosecant x. So what happens to outers and inners in this case? Cancel. And negative cosecant times positive cosecant is negative cosecant squared of x. Do we have sine squared minus cosecant squared in this? Yeah, it's B. Right there. Okay, solve this. Cosine plus sine over sine. Well, that's cosine x over sine of x plus sine of x over sine of x. Well, we know sine of x over sine of x is 1. What's cosine over sine? Cotangent. So it's cotangent of x plus 1. And then we have this, and it's just like, woo, people like get freaked out with this. This is just an identity where they change the right side instead of the left side. Okay? Cotangent is the same as which one of these three? 1 over tangent. So it's this one. And then down here, they have 1 over tangent. This is tangent squared, so what's left out of that tangent cubed if they have a tangent squared here? Just the plain simple tangent of C. And then they canceled this tangent with this tangent to get 1 plus tangent squared. What's plus 1 plus tangent squared equal to? Cosecant squared. No, it's secant squared. All right. All right. Cosine of 17 pi over 12. What two things add up to be 17 pi over 12? What over 12 plus what over 12? 9 and 8, which is the cosine of 3 pi over 4 plus 2 pi over 3. So it's cosine of 3 pi over 4, cosine of 2 pi over 3, minus sine of 3 pi over 4, sine of 2 pi over 3. What's cosine of 3 pi over 4? Negative square root 2 over 2. What's cosine of 2 pi over 3? Negative 1/2. Minus, what's the sine of 3 pi over 4? Square root of 2 over 2. What's the sine of 2 pi over 3? Square root of 3 over 2. So this is negative times a negative is a positive square root of 2 over 4 minus square root of 6 over 4, which is square root of 2 minus square root of 6 all over 4. The sine of negative 13 pi over 12 is the sine of, negative 9 pi over 12 minus 4 pi over 12. Sure. Which is the sine of negative 3/4 pi minus pi over 3. So negative 3 pi over 4 minus pi over 3. So it's a sine of negative 3 pi over 4 cosine of pi over 3 minus cosine of negative 3 pi over 4 sine of pi over 3. Sine of negative 3 pi over 4. Negative 3 pi over 4 is down here in this quadrant. So it's negative square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2. Cosine of negative 3 pi over 4 is same place, which is negative square root of 2 over 2. Sine of pi over 3 is square root of 3 over 2. So it's negative square root of 2 over 4 minus a negative square root of 6 over 4 minus a negative plus a positive. So it's negative 2 square root of 2 plus the square root of 6 all over 4. Well, that's not one of them. But if you would factor out a negative on the outside, you'd get positive square root of 2 minus the square root of 6 over 4. So it'd be choice D. All right. So out there right now, there is a